In the year 3045, aboard the glittering space station called Starkid Saturn, nestled between the rings of Saturn and the moons of Jupiter, a group of children were busy in their floating classroom. They weren't ordinary children, they were part of the Intergalactic Young Explorers program, trained in science, art, and universal languages, including music and poetry. 8-year-old Zara, with her glowing hairbands and voice sketchpad, was trying to finish a poem about stars for her Creative Orbit Arts class. Next to her floated Max, her best friend, humming the tune of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, softly while building a miniature moon rover out of magnetic blocks. Suddenly, a strange humming sound filled the air. The lights in the classroom flickered for a second. A soft musical ping echoed through the station. Incoming transmission detected. The classroom AI named Milo, Musical Intelligence Learning Operator, announced in his charming robotic voice. Zara looked at Max. "We're not expecting any messages today, are we?" "Nope," Max replied, as he floated over to the holoscreen. The screen buzzed with static, then slowly came to life. A glittering blue figure appeared. It was shaped like a teardrop with bright, blinking eyes and a faint rainbow glow trailing behind it. "Help us, please." The figure's voice wavered, sounding like a lullaby played backward. "This is a distress call from Planet Poemora. Our rhymes are fading. Our stories are crumbling into silence." Milo tilted his head and adjusted the signal. "This transmission contains traces of classic rhyme-date nursery poems, baby jingles, even lullabies, but they're scrambled, corrupted." Max's eyes widened. "Did she say? The rhymes are disappearing?" "Yes," Milo said, "and not just from Poemora. Look." He pulled up a galactic data chart. On every planet where children once recited nursery rhymes, the usage graph was dropping rapidly. On Earth, Mars, Europa, even the education pods of the Neptune colony, children weren't singing anymore. Zara gasped. "But we love rhymes. How could they just disappear?" Milo's voice dropped to a serious tone. "If the core poems of Poemora are lost, their rhythm will vanish from the universe. Without rhythm, language begins to break. Without rhymes, creativity dims. Without poems, there will be silence." Zara clenched her fists. "We have to help." Just then, a drawer in the classroom wall blinked and opened. 5 tiny spherical robots rolled out, each humming a different tune. They stood up, revealing their tiny arms, blinking eyes, and holographic faces. One wore a little crown and sang, "Jack and Jill went up the hill." Another twirled like a dancer and chirped, "Twinkle, twinkle, little weight." "What's next? I forget." Milo introduced them with pride. "Meet the They're ancient guardians of poetic memory, designed to preserve the most beloved English poems for kids. But their memory banks are glitching." The robot with woolly ears stepped forward. "I'm Baba. I used to remember all the verses. But now, ... I only remember, have you any wool? What comes next?" Zara knelt beside him and whispered, Yes, sir. 3 bags full." Baba's eyes lit up. "Yes, that's it." The robots began singing, in broken tunes, the fragments they remembered. But it wasn't enough. "The only way to restore us," said the RhymeBot, named Twinkle, "is to journey to Planet Poemora and reawaken the rhyme chord." Max turned to Zara. "We're going on a mission, aren't we?" Zara nodded. "For the poems. For the kids. For every lullaby ever sung." Milo activated the navigation panel. "Course set to Poemora. Prepare for launch in T-5 minutes." The classroom transformed into a mini shuttle pod. The walls closed in, screens blinked alive, and the RhymeBots rolled into secure slots. As the countdown began, the first lines of Humpty Dumpty played softly from the speakers, distorted but still hopeful. And with that, the children of Starkid 7 began their journey to rescue the forgotten rhymes of the universe. The stars shimmered like scattered diamonds as the Starkid 7 shuttle sped through hyperspace, carrying Zara, Max, Milo, and the 5 RhymeBots toward the distant and mysterious planet Poemora. Inside the cabin, the mood was a mixture of excitement and worry. The mission was clear. Find out why rhymes were vanishing, and restore them before silence spread across the galaxy. As they flew past a rainbow-colored nebula, Milo spoke up. "We're approaching Poemora's orbit. Warning, planetary atmosphere is unstable due to rhyme loss. Expect unpredictable language distortion." "Language distortion?" Max raised an eyebrow. "Yes," Milo explained. "When rhymes fade, communication becomes jumbled. Words lose rhythm. Songs become nonsense." Zara glanced at the RhymeBots, who were clustered together in the corner, whispering incomplete lines to each other. "Twinkle, twinkle, little shoe." "No, that's not right," muttered Twinkle, tapping her metal head. Baba sighed. "I used to remember the whole thing. Now it's just wool, wool, and more wool." Just then, the ship shook slightly as it entered Poemora's atmosphere. Outside the window, they saw a beautiful world made of pastel skies, cotton candy clouds, and glowing letters that floated mid-air like balloons. But something was clearly wrong. The sky flickered between colors, and whole sentences unraveled like ribbons, disappearing into thin air. Giant trees made of books had empty pages, and rivers of ink had dried up. Birds flew silently, their beaks moving, but no sound came out. They landed softly on a glowing field shaped like an open book. As the ramp lowered, the group stepped out, greeted by a strange silence that felt heavy, as if the air itself had forgotten how to sing. From the distance, a voice called out, "Who dares step onto Poemora in this time of silence?" A tall figure emerged, wearing a cloak made of floating letters. He had eyes like magnifying glasses and held a staff with a feathered pen at its top. "I am Lexicon, keeper of the rhyme cores," he said solemnly, "and you are children. What could you possibly do to help?" Zara stepped forward bravely. "We came from Starkhead 7. We received your distress signal. We brought the RhymeBots. We remember the poems." Lexicon's eyes widened as he spotted the tiny bots. "RhymeBots. I thought they were all lost. These are relics from the ancient rhyme archives." Twinkle floated forward and stammered, "We were in sleep mode. But the children woke us up with a line from our poem." Lexicon bent down and touched Babe's head. "Then perhaps, there is hope." He turned and motioned for them to follow. "Come, I will take you to the library of lullabies. There, the remaining RhymeBots can be synchronized with the central rhyme memory if it still exists." They followed him through fading forests of forgotten fairy tales and past silent villages where rhyme animals like the dish and the spoon sat frozen. Unable to move. At the library, a massive dome made of crystal letters, Lexicon placed his staff into a glowing podium. The doors opened with a whoosh. Inside were towers of glowing books, each one a poem, flickering faintly. In the center sat a cracked crystal orb, the rhyme core. "It's badly damaged," Milo observed. "Yes," Lexicon said, "and Dr. Silence plans to destroy it fully. Once gone, all rhymes will be erased from every galaxy. No more lullabies. No more stories before bed." The RhymeBots rolled forward, each placing a glowing chip into the core. It buzzed weakly. Then Zara stepped forward and said clearly, "Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water." The rhyme core pulsed. Max added, "Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall." A light shot upward. The children recited rhyme after rhyme, and slowly, the core began to glow stronger. But Lexicon interrupted. "There's still more to restore, and Dr. Silence is watching. He knows you're here now." Outside, the skies darkened. The battle for rhyme had truly begun. The skies above Poemora darkened to a deep gray, and the one-soft winds turned sharp and cold. What had once been a land of melodies and rhyming laughter now felt like a dream. Unraveling, the children stood silently in the library of lullabies, watching as the rhyme core flickered like a candle in a storm. Each glowing line they restored was a tiny step, but far from enough. Something powerful was actively working against them. Then came the sound, a low mechanical hum, like a broken music box spinning endlessly. It grew louder until it shook the library's walls. "He's here," Lexicon whispered. "Dr. Silence." From the entrance burst a fleet of floating, cube-shaped drones, their surfaces covered in static. Where the RhymeBots were colorful and full of cheerful melodies, these were dull, gray, and emitted strange, muffled frequencies. They scanned the room with red lasers, erasing small rhyming verses from the bookshelves as they passed. The RhymeBots huddled together in fear. Twinkle whispered, "Those are silenced drones. They erase rhyme from everything they touch." And then he appeared. Dr. Silence floated into the room on a sleek hoverboard shaped like a giant mute button. His long cloak swirled like smoke, and instead of a face, he wore a smooth white mask without eyes or a mouth, completely blank. His voice echoed telepathically into their minds. "Poems are foolish noise. Rhyme is chaos. Order lies in silence." Max stepped forward, fists clenched. "That's not true. Rhymes help us learn, remember, imagine. Dreams are distractions." Dr. Silence cut in coldly. "I will bring peace, quiet, forever." With a wave of his hand, the drones swarmed toward the rhyme core. Zara shouted, "Protect it," and leaped into action. Milo activated the defense field, and Max and Zara each grabbed a RhymeBot. As drones closed in, the children began reciting rhymes aloud, their voices shaky but determined. "Hey, diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle. Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet." Each line of poetry acted like a shield, causing the drones to glitch and recoil. Baba released a burst of musical notes that struck a drone with a BAA so loud it exploded in sparks. But the enemy was overwhelming. Dr. Silence raised his staff, shaped like a tuning fork, and drove it into the ground. The walls began to tremble. Books floated upward, their words turning to dust. "The Forgetatron," Lexicon cried. "He's activating it. If he fully powers it, the rhyme core will be erased." Zara looked at Max. "We need more rhymes, but not just the old ones. We need new poems, something fresh, something powerful." Max nodded and pulled out his sketchpad. He quickly scribbled a poem of his own. "Up in space, where stars all shine, we carry hope in every rhyme. Voice is strong, we sing. We play no villain takes our words away." As he spoke the final line, the poem glowed bright gold and flew into the rhyme core. The core surged with new life, beams of light shooting through the ceiling. Twinkle blinked. Original poetry. That's the key. Rhymes from the heart. The children and RhymeBots began composing lines together, mixing classic poems with their own new creations. With every verse, the drones began to malfunction and fall from the sky. Dr. Silence staggered, his cloak flickering. No, too much sound, too much imagination. Zara pointed at him. You can't silence what lives in every child's heart. With a final chant, a chorus of voices, young and robotic, the children shouted, "We rhyme, we sing, we shine so bright. In every word, there lives the light." The rhyme corps burst into a brilliant beam, blasting Dr. Silence out of the library. In a swirl of fading static dot, the silence lifted. Poemora took its first breath of poetry once more. But the battle was not yet fully won. The next step was restoring every lost rhyme across the land. And that journey was only just beginning. Poemora was slowly coming back to life. The skies, once dull and heavy with silence, began to lighten into soft shades of lavender and gold. The rivers of ink trickled again, and letters rained gently from the clouds like falling snowflakes. But the damage done by Dr. Silence's Forgetatron had reached deep into the hearts of Poemora's people. In the village of Melody Hollow, Zara, Max, and the RhymeBots stood in front of a large crowd of rhyme creatures, animated characters from classic nursery rhymes. There stood little Bo Peep, her sheep nowhere in sight. Jack sat with a bandaged head, and Jill quietly wept by his side. The itsy-bitsy spider clung to the bottom of the spout, too frightened to climb again. Everyone looked lost. They don't remember their own stories, Max whispered. Without rhythm and rhyme, their purpose fades, Lexicon explained. They are fragments of forgotten poems. They need to feel their stories again, not just hear them. Zara stepped forward. Then we'll help them remember. But not by just repeating the old lines. We'll bring them back to life, through play, music, and new ideas. Twinkle spun in the air. Let's begin the great poetic battle. It wasn't a battle in the way one might expect. There were no weapons, no lasers, no shouting. It was a competition of creativity, expression, and laughter. The children and the RhymeBots teamed up with the villagers, forming groups to complete broken rhymes and invent new ones together. Max and Baba approached little Bo Peep. Little Bo Peep has lost her sheep. Max began gently. But where could they possibly be? Bo Peep blinked. I don't know. Baba chimed in with a new verse, but with a map and shoes on her feet, she searched the hills and every street. Bo Peep's eyes sparkled. She stood up tall, a shepherd's crook in hand. Yes, I'll find them. I remember now. Meanwhile, Zara worked with the itsy-bitsy spider. You can't stay at the bottom forever, she said kindly, but I'm scared. The rain will wash me away again. Zara nodded. Then let's give you a better verse. Together, they chanted. The itsy-bitsy spider climbed up the spout once more, with waterproof boots and courage at its core. With a confident twirl, the spider began its climb. Cheers erupted from the crowd. One by one, characters found themselves again through rhyme. Jack and Jill were given a new adventure where they took turns helping each other climb. Humpty Dumpty got a hover saddle and declared he would try sitting on the wall again with safety rails this time. At the center of Melody Hollow, Lexicon raised his staff. You are all witnessing the rebirth of rhyme energy. Golden light swirled around the villagers, feeding into a giant crystal tree. The verse tree, which had once been the source of Poemora's creativity. Its leaves began to grow again, each one carrying a verse, a line, or a playful rhyme. Milo buzzed happily. Poetic frequency is at 78% and climbing. Original content is boosting the core faster than expected. Just as the joy reached its peak, a final challenge appeared. A dark cloud loomed overhead, a remnant of the Forgetatron. It began erasing the new verses, line by line. Twinkle's voice trembled. We need one final rhyme, one strong enough to lock in the restoration. Zara took Max's hand. Together, they raised their voices. When silence falls and poems fade, we rise with joy, unafraid. With words we build, with songs we soar. Our rhymes will echo forevermore. The verse shot like lightning into the verse tree. The cloud screamed and dissolved into sparks. A wave of laughter, music, and stories swept across Poemora. Children's voices from distant worlds began to hum nursery rhymes again. The storybook world was healing. And the RhymeBots stood proudly, knowing they had done what they were built to do: preserve the magic of words for every child across the stars. The twin suns of Poemora rose slowly over the hills of Melody Hollow, casting golden beams across the revived land. The once muted world now pulsed with life, color, and music. Birds chirped rhyming songs from trees made of verse. Flowers bloomed with lullaby petals, and rivers babbled in playful limericks. Zara and Max stood on a high balcony of the verse tower, watching as crowds of rhyme characters danced below. The air was filled with the sweet sounds of children's voices, Earth children, Martian children, even Jovian kids from floating sky schools, all singing and laughing as restored rhymes beamed back to their home planets. We did it, Max said, breathless. Zara smiled. No, We did it, everyone did. The poems, the RhymeBots, lexicon, even the characters. It wasn't just about remembering the old rhymes, it was about writing new ones, together. Down in the crowd, Babai was proudly showing off his new woolly coat stitched with golden thread that shimmered in rhyme patterns. Twinkle floated in a loop, giggling as she spelled twinkle across the sky in stardust. Insy Winsy Spider had become a hero, leading bravery chants for the tiniest characters who once felt forgotten. Milo floated beside the children. Poemora's restoration is complete. Rhyme energy at 100%. Linguistic rhythm re-established across all known star systems. Lexicon stepped forward from behind a curtain of floating verses. Now wearing a robe that glowed like morning sunlight, young Mercy said formally, "You have not only saved our world, you have saved imagination itself. For this, we name you both honorary galactic rhymers, defenders of story and song." He handed them each a glowing quill of echoes. With these, you may write verses that reach across galaxies, planting seeds of poetry wherever you go. Zara held hers with awe. What do we do with it? Lexicon smiled. Write, teach, inspire. The rhyme must live on through new voices. Max grinned. We could write a space ballad, or a rhyme about robots that dance salsa. Zara laughed. Suddenly, a beam of light shot from the verse tree into the sky. Milo turned to them. Transmission complete. All restored rhymes and new creations have been uploaded to the Universal KidNet. Every child, everywhere, now has access to these poems. On Earth, in a small classroom, a toddler clapped as her teacher sang a refreshed version of The Wheels on the Bus with a twist about flying buses. On Mars, kids in an underground learning pod laughed as a holographic cow jumped over a digital moon. On Neptune's icy rings, children giggled through their visors as they recited a new rhyme called Zigzag. The zero-gravity zebra mission was a success. But something even more magical had happened. Children weren't just remembering the old rhymes. They were creating their own. For the first time in centuries, rhyme had evolved beyond memory. It had become a living, breathing art again. Zara turned to Max. "Do you think Dr. Silence is really gone?" Milo answered. His core program was dismantled. But silence always tries to creep back in. Your job now is to keep the rhythm alive. Lexicon added, so long as children write, sing, and imagine, he can never truly win. The children nodded. That evening, a final celebration lit up the skies. Fireworks shaped like rhyming couplets exploded above the verse tower. RhymeBots led parade floats shaped like open books. From every corner of Poemora, voices rose in harmony. Zara and Max stood beneath the stars, their new quills in hand, and began to write a brand new poem together. It began like this. From silence rose a tale so bright, of rhymes reborn in starlit light. Through hearts of kids, both brave and true, the magic of poems began anew. And as they wrote, across the stars, children everywhere listened on, rhymed back.